Welcome stampers, welcome to stampingimperfection.com. I had to make a sympathy card today, so I thought I would show you how quick and simple this was to make. If I hold this a little bit closer, you'll notice you can see the embossed background behind the stamp and the sentiment. And you can see that I kept the color palette very clean and simple. So this was a really quick card to make. All I needed was a little bit of paper, a piece of black paper and a piece of white paper. I used 1/2 of a piece of black cardstock. I cut it at 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2 using my score pal, folded it and made a nice crease with my bone folder. I have 2 pieces of white cardstock cut at 4 by 5 1/4. I needed 2 of those. I used one of those on the inside so I can write on the inside. I used a small piece of black cardstock cut about 2 3/4 by 3 inches, and a small piece of white cardstock cut at 2 1/2 by 2 3/4. I had a piece, I'm using a piece of ribbon, some double-sided tape or snail, some stamping dimensionals, and then as far as stamp sets and embossing folders, I used the vintage, I don't know if you can see this, if I open it you might be able to see it better. I used the vintage wallpaper embossing folder. Love that one, love, love, love. And I thought it went really nicely with the medallion, the big fancy medallion from the mixed bunch set. I've been looking for a reason to use that. I also used this smaller little round circular flower just for the inside of the card, just to give the inside of the card a little bit of a decoration. And I have to say, I'm embarrassed to say that I don't have a good set of sentiment stamps, so the only sympathy stamp I had is from a retired set called Kindred Spirits, so you'll have to find yourself a sympathy sentiment or some kind of sentiment that you have available. I know that'll be the very next thing I order. Okay, so let me show you how I put this together. I just started by taking my card background and on the inside of the card I used the smaller medallion little flower set stamp, and I stamped on the inside, and then I'm just going to attach this on the inside so that I can actually write on the inside since the cardstock is black. So it looks something like this when I got all done, and I really like that little touch in the corner. You could also add that touch to the envelope as well, so I would attach that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp, and this is the size of the actual paper I'm going to end up with, but I like to stamp on something slightly bigger because my aim isn't that good. So I usually use something a little bit bigger to give myself a little bit of room, and then I usually trim it down. And this is where I'm using the big medallion. I'm just going to ink it up. I'm going to stamp down, press nicely, clean off my stamp on my stamping scrub. Then I took my sentiment stamp, and in this case it was the only sympathy one I had with sympathy, stamped it, lined it up underneath the stamp that I used, and clean it off. And I have a nice little stamped image. So on the back of that stamped image I put some two-sided tape. You could use snail adhesive on that if you have that around. I then attached that to the smaller piece of black cardstock. Let me put this in the frame so you can actually see what I'm doing. I try to center that as best I can. I never get that perfect, and I don't really worry about it because I want it done for tomorrow, so I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about how perfect it is. The second piece of white cardstock I used, I placed inside my embossing folder. I always line it up right along the top just like that. Close the embossing folder. I ran it through my Big Shot and ended up with this. And how pretty is that? It's just such a pretty embossed background. I could just see so many uses. I think it goes so nice. And I have the double-sided tape, which I already took the cover off of. So then I put that on there. And I use stamping dimensionals on the back of the smaller piece. I really like giving it a little bit of dimension, plus I'm going to put the ribbon there, so it works out kind of nicely to raise it up a little bit. You don't have to, but I just feel like that, just like the embossing folders give your cards such great dimension, I think that about the dimensionals too. It just gives it a little extra touch that you can't get on a card that you purchase in a store. This makes it like uniquely yours, and who doesn't love to give something handmade? And the fact that it doesn't ever turn out perfect just lets somebody know you really did make it. Okay, so I'm going to put my ribbon under here before I put this down. I'm just going to put this down like this. Now you could tie the knot before you put it down if you wanted to. That might have been a better plan. But I'm just going to tie the knot on here. I like the dimensionals because I can move this around once I get it tied even. And I'm just going to put a simple little knot in it. Like that. And I don't like the ends too long, so I'm just going to snip those off a tiny bit with a pair of paper snips. Like that. And lo and behold, look how quick that card was to make. And it's really pretty. Somebody, well, I don't know if they'll like getting a sympathy card, but at least they'll know I took the time to make something special just for them. Thank you for watching.